Say you look really well for your age, and I will say, well, heroin will keep you out of the sun, but I don't recommend it for a beauty product. I am in recovery, or you would be having a different hairdresser up here. Thank you, Vicki, so much for this. Yes, I came here with sheets of paper. I was in the editing process. I did not have an agent. I did not have a book deal. And in about a year and a half, I slept with this the first 2 nights when I received it. This was 20 years in the making, and it is a riveting tale, as Jackie Collins calls it. I didn't even know that she had received my book. She read it on the airplane going to London, and then emailed my publisher, and that was really such a great gift from her to me. I kind of call this like Forrest Gump meets Boogie Nights. And here we go. It is a documented history. I started my first beauty salon in 1966. And now I am 66, and, actually a few years older even, since that line was 2 years old. But I originally wanted to write my book to hairdressers that were coming in. Now that I was a baby when I first started, I broke into an all-male field. There were no other women, and it was just when the shampoo groove was starting to happen, and everybody would say, how do you have your hair look well the next day? And they'd say, well, sleep with your hairdresser. So anyway, I thought, well, how's this going to work for me? I didn't know how. I just thought, you better be good at doing hair. And then the story just got bigger and bigger, and so you have the diversity of a hairdresser that you don't have in a book that is about politics, or a book that's about backstage rock and roll. It's all rock and roll. Or a book that is about the film industry. It's just the film industry usually is the landscape. When you're a hairdresser, you're doing everybody from like Iggy Pop to Nancy Reagan, is my phrase I use. And they were all under my roof in my salon at a time when there were no cell phones, no answering machines, and no credit cards. And I really wanted to talk about the 60s and the 70s, how it has evolved. And there was no traveling. So you would pull on people's sleeves and say, what's it like in Paris? You know, or because you had to, if you're going to Paris, you don't say, oh, charge it. No, you had to have the money right here and then. So it was very exciting when I started being asked to travel by photographers or Vogue or magazines, because here I was from humble beginnings being allowed to go to London and Paris and, yes, India. And I thought, India, don't the Beatles know somebody over there? We were not global. I did not know Chanel wasn't just a perfume, as opposed to today, the little girls are 9 years old with their Dolce & Gabbana, you know, whatever. They know everything. They know everything. All right, so there's many things in here that it's kind of like I always say, the first 15 pages are tough, but if I live through it, you can read through it. And I'm not gonna read you that, and you'll all be. Last time I read, everybody was sobbing while I was reading, and I was like, okay, well that's good, but this is not a cheery afternoon. So I'm going to jump up to this. This is a chapter called But It's My Job. And I do want to show you, there's Cher and I, and there's Vanessa Redgrave. This was from the trip to India. There's 60 photographs in here that I'm just so thrilled about. When I say I love my book, I love all the people I want to introduce you to that are in here, and a time and an era where I was hanging on Jim Morrison's ankle at the Whiskey A Go Go, and we were all saying, yeah, with a black Russian in my other hand, and we were saying, and everybody's going, what was his name? Yeah. Danny Vapianis. No. Anyway, and somebody said, Gucci's coming. I had a salon right off of Rodeo, and we were going, what's a Gucci? What's a Gucci? I mean, there was no internet, like I say, there was nothing. So anyway, this is about me coming back from India, and I'm going to be running into my husband who's been waiting for me. You'll find out how happy he was. Okay, so this is the last leg. The monsoons finally came and we finished in time. As we drove back to the airport to leave India, I saw the monkeys in the trees, wandering wild boars below, and herds of children begging on the streets. Our driver guide invited us to an auction for the king's elephant's jewelry, but we had no more time. On the last stretch of the road, I saw how the monsoons had blown off the huts, roofs, and families were huddled on tabletops, holding one another for a heavy rain to pass. But most of all, I saw the piercing black eyes of India, the coal eyeliner on even the infants. We boarded the plane for Paris. That's where we would all split up. I didn't know when I would be called again, but I knew I would never miss. I can write better than I can read. But I knew I would never miss another chance to work with Melvin. I flew directly to California, 19 hours. I couldn't wait to be with my children and tell my stories. God, how I longed for a cheeseburger, fries, and a chocolate malt. But it's my job, is the title of this. Mommy, Mommy, my son Adam ran into my arms. Aloma, my best friend, was holding Daisy in the entry where she was staying with my husband. Bucky walked up to me and gave me a half welcome home and half I'm mad at you for ever leaving hug. I took Daisy into my arms and squeezed her tight. I wondered how she had ever changed in 20 days. But she looked exactly the same, sweet and healthy. Sunday I would take them to Kittyland, the same one I went to as a child. They probably had the same old ponies. Bucky never seemed that interested in my trip, just my return. We viewed life so differently that we didn't have much to share except Adam and Daisy. I was clear we had grown further apart, further than London, Paris, and India. It was Friday, 11 a.m. That meant my standing appointment, Betsy Bloomingdale. She was in my chair. I couldn't wait to tell her about my trip. I felt so worldly now. Of course, I had dressed in my new Indian sari and my halter top, bangles up my arms, gold sandals, and bells on my ankles. I even put a red dot in my third eye and lots of that black coal eyeliner like the Indian woman and the children wore. Mrs. B smiled. Oh, Carrie, darling, only you could get away with that before lunch. Not that she would ever be caught dead in my flamboyant attire. Betsy was the fashion queen of Beverly Hills. More ladies requested my Betsy Bloomingdale hairstyle than my Goldie Hawn or my Barbara Feldon do. And I got to go to Paris. Oh, how marvelous, Mrs. B said. And did you go to the Louvre? The Louvre? No, I went to Regine's, I proudly announced. I had lots of standings. These ladies I looked forward to every week, relationships turning into families. My clients were my chief source of growth and education towards goals for personal sophistication. And the more celebrities I did, the more came in. I turned clients away. I only had 2 hands, and there were only so many hours. I raised my prices. No one left. I raised them again. One day I got a call that outdid them all. It was the representative for United Airlines. What can I do for you, I said. We would like you to create a hairdo for all our stewardesses. I started to laugh. One hairdo for them all? That's correct. I'm told you can create our new look. Not sure. Yeah, that's my specialty. That's a running theme throughout my book. That's my specialty. Whatever anybody asks, I will say, oh yeah, that's my specialty. It had been about 7 months since my overseas adventure. Sharon Tate on line 1, my receptionist, Lori Glick, the daughter of one of my clients, called out. I was just about to do a client for the first time. I don't know why I'm coming to you. I have 9 beauty salons on my Desilu lot. Lucille Ball was fluffing her famous red hair in my mirror. All of my friends come to you, so I thought I'd try you out. I'm so sorry. Could you excuse me one little moment? Do whatever you have to do, honey, Lucy smiled, as long as I'm out by noon. I took the phone at my station. Sharon Tate had been in and out of my chair for haircuts and colors since the first time Steve Brandt brought her to me. Really? When? Fantastic. I can't wait. Lucy watched my progressive excitement. What's going on? I was just asked to do my friend's hair for her wedding in London in January. What'll I wear? It's really cold. Come to my house, borrow some things from me, she said, batting her false eyelashes over her big blue eyes, speaking through her bright red lipstick. She was surprisingly generous, But it was 1968, not 1958. I couldn't go to London and I Love Lucy.